Today we are going to study an essay written by Stephen Leacock. The title of this essay is My Lost Dollar. Stephen Leacock is an Anglo Canadian political economist and humorist. In this essay, the writer is telling us about his experience with his friend Todd, who owed him $1 which he did not return. In fact, he forgot it. So, this excerpt is marked by his tongue in cheek humor and appeals to general readers. In fact, whatever the writer tells us in this essay is very much close to us, because in our day to day life also we come across such kind of situations in which sometimes we owe something to someone or somebody owes something to us. So, in this essay, the writer recollects his experience with his friend. His name was Todd, and one day he borrowed $1 from the writer. Since this incident took place almost a year ago, the writer does not expect now that he will get it back from his friend Todd. There is very little prospect of him returning it, because his friend Todd has already forgotten that he borrowed $1 from the writer. Every day these two friends meet, and as and when they meet, they talk with each other in a very friendly manner. He has always been very frank with his friend. But it seems that his friend Todd has completely forgotten the dollar. So there was very little chance of getting it back. The writer, in fact, finds it very difficult to forget that his friend owed him $1. Every now and then they meet, he remembers that his friend Todd owes him $1. The person who borrowed the dollar has already forgotten. The person who lent it still remembers. Now he tries his level best to remind his friend Todd about the dollar, but it was not possible for the writer to make him realize his friend that he owed him $1. According to the writer, as far as his own case is concerned, he tells us that if anyone borrows $1 from him, he shall remember it till he dies. As far as the writer is concerned, the writer is telling us that if anyone, be it Todd or anyone, if anyone borrows $1 from him, he shall never forget it. Then he tells us the story, the whole story, how it exactly happened. According to the writer, last year on April 8th, Todd, who was going to Bermuda, needed $1 in change to pay for his taxi. At that time, he needed change of $1. And the writer who was with him, he lent him $1. Now, when Todd came back from Bermuda after 3 weeks, the writer expected that his friend would return his dollar. It's but natural. He is a lender he has lent $1 to his friend. Todd is a borrower and it is his duty that he should return it. But unfortunately, he did not return it. The writer indirectly tries to remind his friend about the dollar, but it was not of any use. It was just in vain. The writer tried every possible way of making him realize that he owed him $1, but unfortunately, the writer's friend did not remember it. It took the writer some time to realize that his friend had completely forgotten it. Slowly, gradually, the writer mm, came to know that his friend Todd has already forgotten that he borrowed $1 from him. Now, this incident does not make the writer to have any grudges against his friend. It is perhaps because he was not the only person to forget about dollar like him. In our day-to-day life also we come across this incident. Many a times our friends borrow some amount from us. If it is a small amount, they are likely to forget the repayment of that small amount. Sometimes in our lives also, in our day-to-day lives, we are likely to borrow from someone and we are also likely to forget it. So it's but natural. Since the amount is very meager, the writer should not have taken it so seriously, but since he wants to tell us how it happens when you lend money to someone and how you feel when that person does not return it. So the writer decides that he wants to add his friend's name because already in his life he has come across such incidents many a times. So in past also he might have lent some small amount to many people, and as Todd forgot, similarly they also forgot it to return. So he wants to add Todd's name in the list of men who owed him $1 and forgotten to return it. The writer and his friend they meet again and again frequently, and once when they met, it was just 2 days ago, the writer says, some 2 nights ago, when his friend met him, his friend Todd was talking about Poland's debts. Debts means runa. The writer at that time thought that his friend would remember his dollar in the course of his talk. But again, we see that he did not remember it. As they were having this discussion, as the writer was thinking about Todd's dollar, suddenly a painful thought occurs to his mind. He thinks that if Todd owes him $1 and forgotten it, perhaps he must be owing some dollars to some people and he too might have forgotten it. He thinks that perhaps there may be a list of them, and the more he thinks about it, the less he likes it because he had forgotten it. He would never pay. Since he too might have borrowed some dollars from some people, and since he has forgotten it, he would never return it. And the thought of not returning that dollar causes him pain. If there are such men, he would like to write their names down on paper. He decides to recollect those people who might have lent him money, dollars, meager amounts, not very huge amounts, small amounts. So he wanted to recollect the names of those people so that he could return their money. But he is not going to write about those who have lent him an odd dollar, maybe 30 cents, to pay for a bottle of plain soda in the Detroit Athletic Club. The writer here tells us that he would like to make a list of those people who might have lent him a dollar or more than a dollar. He would not write the names of those people who might have given him some 30 to 40 cents to pay for a bottle of plain soda in the Detroit Athletic Club. The writer says, but if anyone ever lent him a dollar to pay for a taxi when he was starting for Bermuda, he wants to pay it. Here, the writer sarcastically, ವ್ಯಂಗ್ಯಾತ್ಮಕವಾಗಿ tells us how he would like to pay a dollar to the person who might have lent him a dollar to pay for a taxi when he was going to Bermuda. It is just a correlation. He wants to tell us that as Todd forgot, he would never forget it. More than that, he wants to start a general movement, a back to honesty movement for paying all these odd dollars that are borrowed in moments of expansion. So the writer here wants to start a movement, back to honesty movement. According to him, the greatest nations were built up on the rock basis of absolute honesty. Honesty is the best policy. We have to be honest. And he wants to start this movement of back to honesty so that he would be able to pay all these odd dollars which were borrowed by the people. Let everyone follow this rule, back to honesty. So in conclusion, the writer is requesting the readers not to leave the copy of this article carelessly so that it might be seen by Major Todd of the University of Club of Montreal. So finally, the writer again humorously is reminding the readers that this don't leave this article, the copy of this article, carelessly. He does not want his friend Todd to read it. Major Todd, he was from the University of Club of Montreal. So through this particular essay, the writer tells us how in our day-to-day life we forget to repay smaller amounts. There are two persons here, the lender and the borrower. The lender always remembers, whereas the borrower is likely to forget. Now, what happens here, the borrower sometimes may forget it purposely, but many a times, due to our forgetfulness, we forget to repay the smaller amounts. So, through this essay, humorously and sarcastically, the writer is going to present before us our common experience. When we lend, we remember. When we borrow, we forget. It is better we should also join his movement, back to honesty movement, let us repay the smaller amounts which we might have forgotten. So I hope all of you might have understood this interesting essay